They like to play the feminine role. Their favorite thing is to cook dinner and to have it be appreciated. Ambition in the career is just a career is a small stage of their lives.
What's up, dog?
Welcome back. No guests today.
Thank God, huh? Tired of those guys.
Talking to different people with different opinions than us.
No, I'm over it. Let's get back into our echo chamber.
So we were just chatting about the failings of how to win friends and influence people,
yes,
as prompted by what has been a string of several outreaches over the past year to us on our channel from people that we don't know particularly well, that have offered to spend time, hang out with us in exchange for something.
Yeah. And just be clear, How to Win Friends and Influence People is a great book.
Yeah.
But it says correctly that one of the best ways to connect with someone is to think of what you can do to bring value to their life, right? People are taking that message and they are interpreting it as, I will try to hide my ask, my vampiricism, under the guise of it being a gift, which is actually worse than just being honest that you're asking for a take. Because what it looks like is someone with a really small channel saying, hey, I would love if we did a video that we put on my channel and yours, and I think our audiences would love that. And it's like, no, you don't. You think it would be great if you were on our YouTube channel. And that would be great, and I get that. But when you lie and pretend that it's good for me, it makes me like you even less than if you just came in and asked for a favor, which makes me like you even less than if you actually took the advice from Dale Carnegie and thought, what can I do that would help Charlie and Ben? And I'll start with that, and 10 interactions later, I'll ask for my favor.
Yeah, and this is not a call to anyone to do anything for us. This isn't a request for help. This is for those of you out there thinking...
It's a request to stop making selfish requests and hiding them as gifts.
Yeah, no, if you are trying to connect with someone, I've given examples, but they're worth highlighting. It's so cliched, but if you're trying to connect with someone, they're in a position of power. Of course, the natural state, the reason that you want to connect with them is to get something, right? That's why did you pick someone who was in a position of power? It's because you wanted to elevate your own status or reach, or
you think they can do something for you.
Exactly.
That's why you want to connect to them.
So what you have to do is then pause and go, okay, pretend I'm not me. What could I do if this person was my spouse or friend or someone that I just wanted to do something nice for that would be of genuine benefit to them? And it can be as small as like, hey, I proofread some of your blog posts. I've uploaded the corrected files here. I noticed 7 or 8 errors, which I've highlighted. If you want to take this and upload it, feel free, no pressure, right? That's one simple thing that you can do. We had someone this is a higher level just of giving, which was incredible, but his name was Dave. He showed up at an event that I was at. He'd actually sent me several emails, of which I don't get oftentimes because we have such a strong filter of what gets to me, asking if he could come film my speech at an event and just cut it up for me, give it to me for promotional purposes. Didn't get back to him. He was still going to the event, so we still got there early, hung out in my room early, introduced himself as the first person that I saw, knew me obviously on site, and said, look, no pressure, I've got this nice camera here, this whole setup. I know that there's no cameras at this event. I wanted to film this for you. I'm gonna get some low angles, some high angles, you talking to some people. No pressure, I'll cut it up for you if you want to use this for promotional material. And at the end of the event, I was like, dude, let's go to lunch. Let me help you in whatever way I can, because I was so blown away by the above and beyond nature of there was no ask in there. And he could have, at the end of it all, said, hey, man, I had a few questions. Do you have some time? And I would have been like, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's not what often is happening. Like people are rattling off, like you said, requests for help, slapping on a guise of this is good for you. And it winds up just being irritating.
Yeah.
And there are people in our lives who we don't know very well, but still have that loose connection with where we would help.
I'd absolutely get on the phone with the person to give them advice. I would absolutely get lunch with them if they were in town. This is a person I have met.
Not for years, yeah.
But I know them, and I actually still have a fond opinion of them. But the email itself was hilarious in its clear selfishness and then poorly hidden as if it were good for me, which is just it's just worse than pure selfishness.
Yep. So that's that piece of advice.
Don't do that. Try to actually bring value.
One thing, so somebody I told you this, texted me. We just put up our video on Charles Manson and all these other people, and he said, Love the Choice Center reference. And Choice Center is the personal development thing I did a couple years ago. I got a lot out of it. I made a couple videos on it. But at one point in the video, I talk about how they use the term enrollment instead of sales. And the second half of their program, essentially, maybe the second 2/3, becomes an indoctrination attempt to get you to be their unpaid sales force so that you sell your friends and family to joining the course, which is just unfortunate for them because I have spent my own money to send several people. I got a lot out of it, but because of this large thrust and the faking of it, you know what I mean? If they would just say, please, we want you to sell our course. It's important to us. It's not for you, it's for us.
Yeah. No, and if they...
And it could be good for your family.
It's good. You know? It could be good for your family. If you thought this was good, we would really love it. We don't do any marketing. We put all of our money into making the program good. So if you guys could please text one person, people would.
Yeah.
But instead they pretend it's about your personal development.
Yeah.
They say, if you can't sell your friends into this, your dreams will never come true.
They call it the art of enrollment, and they say all of your life, and there's some semantic trickery that's going on here. All of your life is about, it's selling yourself to a potential partner, not selling, enrolling them in your vision of the future, where you're going to be this head of industry, and your wife is going to be by your side, or you're going to be whatever you are, and you're going to get this other person to be with you. This is enrolling employees into your vision. And so the most fundamental aspect of this section of the course is enrollment, and the way that you're going to do that is enrolling people into Choice Center, because that's the most important thing. Now, one of the things that always frustrated me about it is you basically cannot go all the way through the course and graduate without getting at least one person in. I mean, maybe someone in the history of it has, but the pressure from your team and the coach is insane. And they get you to say that you're going to hit, I'm going to sell 5 people, and this is a $2,000+ thing. This is not small. Into this, and then they hound you for it. Similarly, you also make statements about, I'm going to lose this weight. I've been trying to lose this weight for a long time. I'm unhealthy, or I'm going to make this movement on my business.
Yeah, and you, my Choice Center brothers and sisters, I want to enroll you in my vision of losing weight.
And
they don't hound you about it.
They don't. That is so much more lax in understanding.
Yeah.
And it has always frustrated me. Not that they're bad people, that there are people who graduate who are in very unhealthy weight situations that walked in and walked out at the same unhealthy station.
Like 6 months later or something.
But they made sure that they got someone else to sign up.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, Landmark does this too.
Well, it just shows that they don't care about you and your health.
Landmark has a graduation ceremony. And I didn't realize at the time, they're like, bring whoever, bring your family, the more the merrier. These are people that are going to see you stand up for your truth.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, great. I'll get to stand up and say what I'm going to change about myself while these people are there to support me. The entire graduation ceremony is a massive sales pitch. It is a pressure cooker of peer pressure and fake scarcity to try to get the people that are there to support you to sign up for Landmark.
Yeah.
And they do not tell you that ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like I regretted bringing someone.
It's unfortunate because I
liked Landmark when I left. I was very disappointed when I was there. I was like, I'm very uncomfortable, and I wish I hadn't come, and I wish I hadn't brought someone, which is a bummer because prior to right now, I liked this program.
It's similar. I think it's day 4 of Unleash the Power with Tony Robbins, where there's a multi-hour.
Oh, the upsell day?
Upsell day, right? Where he wants you to come to Date with Destiny. And I understand this one is so good, but yeah, it's these, there's clearly a line of, I think it's totally cool to offer and sell. And we do it at the end of our videos. Here's, 10 minutes of content here and 2 minutes of by Charisma University. And by the way, it's a video. You can click off. This is not a seminar that you are stuck in and beholden to if you're not interested in our course.
If Landmark had said, thanks for going through the program, tomorrow we do a thing, we do this at the end of every seminar, we're trying to get new people, we don't market. If you could come and bring people you think the program would help, it's going to be, the first half of the day is going to be free content for them, life-changing no matter what. The second half of the day is going to be trying to sell them to come to the weekend you just did.
Yeah.
Do you want to bring people? That would still work.
And I would still bring people.
They don't have to say, this is a graduation ceremony. They don't mention the sale. They lie. You know what I'm saying? We say we are trying to get you into Charisma University. Here's testimonials for Charisma University. If you want to learn more, here's a sales page with more information about Charisma University. They could do that. They could say the day's one half, great free content, one half, getting them to do the program you just did. Did you like this program? Yes. Okay. Worst case scenario, 3 hours of great free content for them. Best case scenario, they join. You can get just as much money through honesty. That's the thing.
I don't know if you can get just as much, honestly.
Okay, fine. You can do it.
You can be profitable
and transparent.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't think you can get just as much.
I don't know.
I think you can squeeze more out of people, because we've talked about the pressure that they put on people in these events. And you and I are highly stubborn, highly individualistic, resistant to that kind of pressure and aware of it, such that it rubs us the wrong way. But for most people, the pressure does have its intended effect. And it's a bummer.
That's why you need to buy Charisma University. Get that unshakable confidence, you know?
Can you imagine holding an event and then spending the last... And here's what I would do. I'd be like, guys, we're wrapping. It's done. I'm going to tell you now about this. If you don't want to hear it, feel free to walk out. You know, like, here's what we've got next. For those of you who want more, stick around. For everyone else,
I don't know why. Yeah, I would have to. Like, it would feel weird to do the hidden upsell to me.
Yeah, I agree. So, other things. I haven't been writing down a ton, but there was a handful of things that I got.
Short and sweet, baby.
Yeah. So there was, I got this through a weird Reddit hole. Excellent. It was on the front page. There was a quarantine of MGTOW on Reddit, which is men going their own way. And a quarantine on Reddit means essentially that they don't let you enter the subreddit unless you say you want to see objectionable content and are logged in, which is...
Oh, you have to have an account.
That blocks 99% of people on Reddit right there off the bat. So nobody's going to stumble upon this at this point at all. And in the comments discussing the quarantine was, why is this allowed while red pill women is still existent? I was like, oh, red pill women. We've talked about the red pill. Like,
I didn't even know there was a
red pill women.
Yeah.
So I went there. It's not huge. It's 40,000 people. That's not a very big Reddit community. But I had no idea it existed. It is women who subscribe, I think, to the same basic view of intersexual dynamics, the way that the red pill men well, I don't know, because what the criticism levied at red pill men is that they're misogynistic, and I presume that these women aren't all women haters. But what seemed to be the common thread is that they really wanted a husband, and they wanted a traditional role in the household. Like they refer to their man as their captain.
So pretend I had never heard of the red pill.
Yeah.
Right? Give me the 30-second ethos of red pill women. Forget red pill men.
Okay.
Red pill women.
Yeah. With the red pill men to the side.
30-second.
Traditional gender roles, 1950s household as portrayed in Leave It to Beaver, which is typically stay-at-home mom who is soft, understanding, supportive, and not a leader, like not an equal egalitarian, I don't know if egalitarian is the right word, not the same as the man. They call the man in their life their captain, and they're so happy when they find a captain, and they try to encourage the men in their life to take command. There's literally a part of it that is called STFU, which is about STFUing for the decisions that are small and just letting him take the lead. And it's women.
For those that don't know, that means shut the fuck up.
It's women who want to, and I'm not laughing at them, and I'm not saying this is amazing or anything. I just that this community exists was so surprising to me, that are trying to figure out how to get their man to take more of the lead, and if this is the right guy that can be their captain. And marriage is huge on all of their priorities.
Is it a subreddit that's designed around tactics for finding that person, or is it more just success stories and complaining?
It's no, it's not complaining. It's honestly, this was one of the most remarkable things about it, is that it reminded me of men in their analytical attitude towards dating, which quite frankly I don't often see in the women in my life.
And is it a how-to? It's someone being like, here's how I found my captain, here's the 10 strategies.
There's this whole thing on vetting and looking for red flags and this sort of a thing. How you know if this guy's as soon as he indicates that he's not interested in marriage.
I was gonna say, and according to red pill women,
if he doesn't send you enough messages on Tinder before asking for a date, if he's not willing to invest in you prior towards,
so their advice would be bail if he's not willing to commit, and if he's not decisive. Bail if he's wishy-washy, bail if he will not see you exclusively.
Yes, and beyond that, there's actually on the sidebar, there's a thing that says no feminism, which I don't know what part of feminism, but I believe they're talking about the idea that women should be sexually liberated in the sense that it is an empowering thing to spend a period of your life not in a monogamous relationship, feeling like you can sleep around and like that does not diminish you. They are judgmental of that and say anyone who tells you to do that is not looking out for you. If you think that you're in your 24, 25 years old and you're not looking for a husband right now because you've got time, you're totally out of your mind, or not out of your mind. Like, we think that those people are out of our mind. Not, you're wrong. That's not a good strategy for what we're looking for. And they actually don't seem quite proselytizing. They don't seem interested in telling other people what to do, but within their own community of like getting the right husband
if you identify
paramount.
as a red pill woman and you have these goals,
this is not going to work for you.
Don't do this strategy.
Yeah. So it's interesting. And they're
they did not like the Super Bowl halftime show.
I don't know. I didn't see the Super Bowl halftime show. I don't really have. I'd love to get a woman on here to talk about to see what the reaction is. Or a red pill woman or any.
No, we want an RPW. If anyone listening is as a self-identified RPW, you'd heard of the subreddit prior to this podcast and were subscribed, we want you to call in, please.
Yeah. Let us know. And I'm smiling not because I think that it's right or wrong, but because I was so shocked that it existed out there, that there was a section of women that were no feminist.
Yeah. Listen, women. I've never been a woman. I might be a bra-burning feminist. I might be an RPW. I want to talk. I want to hear what it's like.
What do you think you would be? I mean, obviously
probably a giant bra-burning hippie. Just based on my mom and my sister are like super, or they're into feminism and very liberal. And my sister volunteers at Planned Parenthood. And I'm sure I would. I'm a big fan of the nurture theory, so I'm sure I'd be right in line with that.
Got it. You wouldn't go black sheep of the family and
nah, man. Be tie-dyed shirts and going out to volunteer at Planned Parenthood. I'm sure. I would just be my sister.
Got it. 35 years old, single, loving it.
No, she's engaged, man.
Oh no, I'm saying you.
Oh no, I'd be married by now.
Yeah,
probably would have gotten engaged at 28. I just assume I would be my sister.
Got it. So yeah, it was just an interesting thing to find, and I started to dig into the subculture, and then that brought me to the feminist thing, and then there's the TERFs, which some people are going to know what this means. It's trans exclusive radical feminists, which are then women who do not want to include transgender men to women in their agenda or whatever it is. I was just, and
why?
Because they don't identify themselves as TERFs. I think other people sorry if I screw this up. I think other people call them TERFs. They call them radical feminists, like the people who support transgender men to women being just grouped in with women, all these things. And what they say is these particular women who are referred to as TERFs, but probably refer to themselves as something else, say that this is a case of men invading women's space and dictating women's stuff and all this kind of thing. And it just made me realize how fragmented, and even within groups that you would assume had similar goals, right? Like you would assume feminists and trans, for whatever reason, I just thought that they would be on the same side. There's just such infighting and fractional like kinship groups going on where you don't support what I like. It's a big country with a lot of different people that don't all agree with one another. And it's kind of crazy that we get one president, 100 senators, 435 congressmen to even begin to represent it. Yeah. So that was all that I was like, dude, there are so many little groups out there and they all kind of hate the other one.
I told you I went out with a girl that sounded like she was a RPW. Yeah. Did I tell you this? She was this very, very alpha aggressive, like she cursed a lot, she talked very loudly, she was making a lot of money at her company, and we were talking about dating. She's like, yeah, what I want is a guy who will make every decision for me, tell me what to wear, tell me what food to order, take my food if he wants it from me, in bed tells me, like, just I want to come home from work and not have a thought and just do what I'm told. That was her ideal relationship.
But you said she was alpha in the sense in the office?
Yes. At work. She's hard charging. I'm the best at what I do. I mean, honestly, this is what rubbed me the wrong way, to the point where she's like, everyone else is inferior. Everyone else is an idiot. Mm-hmm. Like, I am just great at this, and I'm making it rain over here. She was super, very high opinion of herself, very low opinion of her coworkers, and then wanted to come home and turn all that off, basically. And just, she was looking for, she's like, I'm alpha and I want a guy who's super alpha, who then out alphas me and tells me what to do. And
what was your reaction, Ben?
It sounded like a lot of work. And also I was turned off by her talking about how alpha she was.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. It's weird stuff. She's just like really loud, swore a lot, was just telling me how great she was.
Yeah,
it was very tell, don't show. And
which is weird because what you're describing, she's like, no, I want to be submissive and I want someone to tell me what to do.
I'm sure she would have, dude. I mean, based on, she hit me up afterwards. I do believe that that's what she thinks she wants. And I do believe that's what she is looking for. Well, but I would like someone who's just less like aggressive and abrasive like when out in the world. Even if you're going to do everything I tell you and be super submissive to me, and then I introduce you to my friends or my family and you're this aggressive, super abrasive. I don't know.
Well, you also said, and I think you believe as I do, like what you're describing, I make every decision for you. In some like naive, pubescent thing, it's like, oh, power, control, that's so exciting. But what a lot of work.
Yeah. I don't need that.
I gotta worry about what I'm gonna eat, what I'm gonna wear.
I decide what I'm gonna wear 8 seconds before I get dressed. Now I gotta know what's in your closet and like schedule out your outfits. And I gotta like make
it sexy for you when I tell you, like I give a shit.
Yeah. If someone did force that upon me, 90% of my instructions would be I command that you make your own decision.
I command
that you leave me out of this.
I command that you take a deep breath and think, what would you like to do?
Command that you never make me memorize your outfits. No, it's not for me, and I have no judgment on it, actually.
Yeah, dude.
I encourage her to go find what makes her happy, but
no, absolutely. And I think
that wasn't the deal breaker even. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll try. It was the deal breaker was just the other parts of her personality.
Interesting. Both of them for me would be difficult, and
I'll give it the college try.
I kind of did in previous, not even in previous, in the relationships. I mean, you know that I've had lately. I tend to date women who, while not 1950s household, honestly, I take that back. They like to play the feminine role. Their favorite thing is to cook dinner and to have it be appreciated. Ambition in the career is just a career is a small stage of their lives on the path to motherhood, right? And what I've experienced in that is I definitely enjoy that. But what I don't like is constantly being, well, you tell me what to do. What do you think? It's like, I don't think about your life as often as you ought to. I have opinions about some of it, and there are definitely some things where I can make a call for both of us, and we can, I'll play captain. But I don't want that responsibility all the time.
My mom has always said to me that no one can make you happy but yourself. And the flip side of that is that you cannot make someone else happy. You can contribute to their happiness. But yeah, for someone to outsource completely their happiness to you is a very daunting task because it's a full-time job. That person's going to be awake 16 hours a day. And now you're responsible for all the decisions they make in that day. Just seems hard to do while running a business and trying to live your own life.
Yeah.
What happens when I go surfing for 3 hours? You just have to sit down like, my phone's gone. You can't ask me questions.
Well, I looked it up because I explored this and I was like, what is this? And there, no judgment. For whoever wants this, go do it.
No. I really, really hope that she finds someone who is exactly what she's looking for and it makes her happy. I think often we find what we're looking for and it doesn't make us happy, but I'm rooting for her. I just opted out.
Yeah. In exploring it, what I found is that these types of couples often have ground rules, which will be some sort of, not exactly the same, but it was mimicked in 50 Shades of Grey, the contract that you write out that lays out ground rules, and very consistent and constant communication via text, which to me is the worst thing that I could ever imagine. Like, I don't even particularly like to talk on the phone. What I say is save the story for when we're in person. And so explored it for a period of time and very quickly was just like, this is not for me. I'm so laid back in terms of most decisions that one makes during their day. Hair like this, this or that for a snack. I don't care, and didn't work for me.
No, honestly, for me, it's not even the most important thing. The most important thing was that the time we hung out, I didn't smile or laugh as much as I wanted. And so it's like, this isn't even the most important thing to me. I just want you to be a positive person who, when I'm having a down day, makes my life better.
The good news is the fact that there are so many different types, and we talked about, there's transgenders and there's the radical the feminist, or that she doesn't think she's a radical feminist who wants this, and there's the girl who is an alpha at work and wants to be. There's so many different types that it just underscores the importance of finding a match.
Yeah. No, we talked about this at dinner. We can bring it up. That there's so many people with different wants, different looks, different ideas of what's sexy. There's a million options, so you can find what you're looking for if you just filter for it. I think where people screw up is they get scared, and so they stop filtering for what they actually want, and they just go, I'll go for what's available. And then that's a recipe for being unhappy.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that can happen is you don't know what you want when you're starting. I was like, okay, I'll try making every decision, and it didn't take long for me to figure out, experientially this is terrible.
This is exhausting.
I don't want to do this anymore. But of course, when you're a bit younger, if you haven't had the dating experience, there's a part of you that just wants to please the other person. So if I'd entered into this kind of a relationship very early, I probably would have stuck with it for much longer, just because I thought that my decision making was making my girlfriend really happy. As opposed to recognizing, nah, this is just an added degree of stress that I don't need.
Can I transition to one of the things I got written?
Amy.
So this was going to be another episode of Don't Trust What You Read on the Internet, but it ties into what we're talking about very nicely. So there was this article on the internet. I'm going to read it so I get the title right. Plus-sized women admit they aren't attracted to overweight men. And it was on Reddit, and it hit the front page, and everyone's, this is outrageous. And I was like, let me look into this study that they're quoting. And the study, it was an actual news article that quoted 8 Tumblr posts. That was their source. So you know those Tumblr posts, it's an image and then it's a thing?
Who is the article? Who wrote the headline?
Well, there was like 6 of them. It kind of made the rounds. So I don't know who started it, but
it's probably
it wasn't CNN,
finish your point.
But it made the rounds. It made Reddit front page, right? And it was because 8 women in the world of 7 billion had made these anonymous imagery posts with the text of like, I'm a chubby woman, but I don't like chubby men. I'm ashamed to admit it, but it's true. Or like, just because you're overweight doesn't mean you have to like overweight people. Like I don't, and I get upset when people set me up. And so first of all, it's just amazing that you could have on the internet these multiple articles with that headline based on 8 anonymous posts. But the reason it's in a transition to what we're talking about, the comment section was then a bunch of people being like, I am an overweight woman and I would bang the shit out of an overweight guy. I don't know what they're talking about. Just over and over, like, chubby girl here, down for chubby guy. Just hundreds of them, you know what I mean? So this article had 8 sources. Their comment section had hundreds or thousands of them.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was great because it does come to the thing of you could be a guy and see that article and be so disheartened of like, oh, nobody wants me. And that's just not true. Then there was chubby guys talking about how they like chubby girls, chubby women talking about how they like chubby, skinny people saying they like chubby. Just the section was just all these people raising their hands saying, I'm down for.
I just want to get weird with somebody.
Yeah, I'm down to get weird. And it was great. And it ties into what we're just talking about really well, I think, which is that, this is just the opinion of 8 women.
Even if it weren't, I mean, there's a couple of things I did see this. So the one complaint was that, at least in the title, and who knows if it was written by any
plus-sized women and overweight men.
The women were labeled plus size and the men were labeled overweight.
Yes.
So that's one potentially reasonable complaint. But also, if it's coming
just
from
one person wrote it though, and it's clickbait. It's
exactly.
It's just meant to inflame you. It's meant to get to the front page of Reddit.
Exactly. And the other thing is also, who cares? Like, people, I think, need to be able to discriminate completely who they are attracted to and justify to no one. Now, if whatever you are makes you have a pool of no one else who you're interested that is reciprocating your interest, fine, that's your own problem. But assume that every woman in America that was in a certain group was uninterested in every man in a certain group. That is absolutely their prerogative.
Sure, and that's what a lot of these, well, I don't know, but some of the 8 posts, that's what they were saying. They're saying,
and when I say discrimination, I have to say that I'm not talking about job discrimination. I'm not talking about racial slurs. I'm talking about who you want to get naked with.
Yeah. So the one of the posts I know said, I'm an overweight woman and I'm not attracted to overweight men, and that's why I sleep with no one. And she was basically saying no one I'm attracted to is attracted to me. It's like, okay, well, you have 2 options. You can try to change who you're attracted to. You can keep searching for what you're doing, or you can be single and not have sex, which is totally that's your call. And she opted for the not having sex thing. Okay, people are allowed to have sex or not have sex or do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to put it into another episode of Don't trust what you read on the internet, because it was hilarious how
Mostly.
quickly people were just like, this isn't true.
Well, even I think most people who go to Reddit understand this is just headlines, and the most inflamed reaction to the headline is the top comment. Or sometimes it's the funniest that'll meme.
Often the funniest.
Yeah.
But I actually disagree. I think people do see that stuff on the internet and get disheartened because they do think it's based on, because what I read didn't quote the Tumblr thing. What I read quoted another article that quoted another article. It was only through clicking through links that I eventually got to my source.
Yeah.
Which was hilariously non-existent. But I think people do read things and then think that they're true.
Sure. Well, I mentioned this. I watched a video by a YouTuber called ContraPoints. Really interesting setup. It's a male to female transgender YouTuber who I believe had a PhD, I don't know in what, and makes pretty sophisticated videos, 20 to 30 plus minutes on these sorts of topics. And one of the topics was on incels, but it dives into the psychological reason that people believe this stuff, that people are more prone, or many of us are more prone to believe that the worst case scenario is true, such as I'll never find love, nobody likes me, which is rife on these incel message boards, as opposed to
paying attention to all the people commenting saying, I'm in.
Yeah.
That information might go in one ear and out the
Exactly.
other. They don't mean it.
And I think this is very common. And talking about how on the internet, it's almost a form of self-harm to, for instance, go to r-roast me and post your photo and say, do your worst, and to read the worst things that you possibly could about yourself.
You're saying it's like the same reason people will do cutting.
Because you get a rush out of the pain. Yeah, or at least that's what this person was suggesting. As someone who, they say, I used to do this. I used to go to these trans message boards as I was transitioning, post photos of myself, knowing that the culture on these message boards would say, you couldn't pass in a million years, you're too tall, your bones are shaped like this, you've got man hands, like whatever it is. And I knew that's what was going to come back, and I kept doing it.
Yeah.
And it's because the suggestion that they wind up giving is that some part of you knows that to be true deep down.
Of course, yeah,
like
we all
suspects
have
it, and you just need to hear it echoed in the world so that it's, oh, that's true. It's not this deep seed inside of me that feels unlovable. It's everyone else has told me that.
I'm not insecure because I'm crazy. I'm insecure because I should be.
Yes. And weirdly enough, what it does is add support to the completely unsupported notion that you're not worthy of love, which comes from within. Which I thought was really interesting, and perhaps the only way to unwind that is then through tons of therapy or psychedelics or something like that. But step one, this person suggests, is like, you just got to shut this stuff down. You cannot. You in the same way that an addict continues to abuse alcohol, even though it destroys their life, you just have to cold turkey these types of activities.
You're an
websites.
incel. Stop going to our incel.
Yeah. And you still may remain celibate, but at least you won't be getting that messaging that this is forever and ever, and the only way to be happy is to break this unendable cycle. So it's interesting. I'm going to watch more videos because I think they do a very good job on it. Here's something that I've spent all my time on in the last 3 days, and I've talked to you, which is video games.
Okay.
Not just video games, making video games.
Okay.
So I've probably watched 6 hours of video game developer stuff at this point. And when I was little, I always thought that I was going to be someone who made video games. That was, what are you going to do when you grow up? I'm going to make video games. And then you get older and you don't know a single person who works at Sony or Nintendo. They're all in Japan anyway. It's not a viable career path. And I kind of forgot about it. And then recently we started playing video games. And while the Super Bowl was on, it really kind of solidified to me that as the world gets more affluent and scarcity in terms of what am I going to eat, where am I going to sleep, becomes less of a thing. Still a massive thing in the developing world and even in parts of America. But if you believe Peter Diamandis, we're going to live in a post-scarcity world sooner and sooner for more and more people.
Yeah, people won't have to spend all their time trying to get survival resources.
And that's certainly been the direction of the last, human history, but certainly the last 100 years. Mm-hmm. For all of human history, when people have a chance, they play games, right? Mm-hmm. The Mayans played games. Everybody played games. And they tell stories. These are the two things that they do. Yep. And when I look back on what that was for me, it was video games, man. Video games is a game and a story, if you get a good one, wrapped up together. And the other thing that I've seen is all of the games that have been massive hits lately are almost analytical Frankenstein hodgepodges of previous things. So if you look at Fortnite, it took what PUBG was doing and added what Minecraft had, which is like, you're building this massive thing. It became the biggest game in the world. And then Apex Legends took what Fortnite did and added co-op and heroes into the game. So if you don't know what these terms mean, the only point is that they look almost as if they're being designed by someone who could do a charisma breakdown in the sense that they're seeing what are the principal components of these successful games.
Yeah, what is making this successful?
And then they're just going, oh, well, what if we took this one, number 3, and number 7, and that's a game right there.
Yep.
Additionally, you have this influx of these indie developers. So one of the biggest games of the year, I mentioned it on the podcast, was called Disco Elysium, which is essentially a choose-your-own-adventure detective novel. And I dug into it, and what it is, the number one resource that the number one inspiration that the developers list is a game from 20 years ago called Planescape Torment, which I loved at the time, and is the precursor to that. It's given the technology that they had, this novelesque game. And what was interesting is 20 years later, Disco Elysium is hailed as the most innovative, groundbreaking game. It never happened. But really, it's just a fresh... No, I don't want to say it's a fresh coat of paint. It's a fresh take on something that had existed before.
Sure. And I have not played the game, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's more of a story, a choose-your-own-adventure story than it is a game. It's not like a first-person shooter where you're controlling. No. You're just clicking. And I don't mean just to diminish it, but you are just basically having an interesting movie unravel to you, but you get to participate instead of just sitting there.
You participate heavily. You dictate the course of it. You're a detective trying to solve a murder.
Yeah, but it hits all the same emotional triggers that one would go to the movies for.
In terms of... Story, yes, but also the interactivity of a game. That's why it's so good. Because if I wouldn't want to just watch Disco Elysium. I like to play it. You want to pick what kind of cop you're going to be. And just for broad things, you can shake people down and threaten them. You can go crazy and just say random shit and terrify them. Or you can go by the book and try to conduct an investigation to figure out who killed this person. And of course, there's 100 other things you can do. But what's interesting is I was looking at this and their game. In both games, you play a character that wakes up, can't remember their past, has to reconstitute things, finds out that they have a horrible, sordid past. And it's just like, I was like, oh my God, they just did this game, except they made the monster a cop, and it's incredible.
So what you're saying is you're going to do a charisma breakdown of video games.
Yes.
And you're going to make the world's greatest.
Not that I'm going to make it, but I think that weirdly enough, I thought that my skill set...
Should we announce a Kickstarter? That's why we need you to join our Patreon, which we don't have.
I thought that my skill set at 32 years old completely precluded me from ever participating in the video game industry.
Because you can't code.
Yes. What I realize is that there is a title of a game designer, which I don't have everything, but they are kind of like, what are the 3 things this game needs to succeed? And these are the people who are doing market analysis. They're comparing to what's already out there. They're looking at the units sold on Steam and comparing it to what we could do. And I'm like,
yeah, you're saying you can go to someone that can't code and you go, listen, what you need is someone with a tweaky inability to turn their brain off despite meditating and doing drugs. And that's me. And I can't help but analyze things, and I'm going to use my powers for good.
Exactly. And I have a deep knowledge of what was hugely niche popular 30 years ago. And I would have said this game, Planescape, if it just hadn't been completely redone in Disco Elysium. But I've got 3 others that haven't been updated. So maybe in the future, I don't know if you're interested, in addition to music and psychedelics, I like this idea of video games.
Sure.
Well,
the one thing I think this is the one thing I like about this the most, which I think is true, is throughout human history, people have wanted to play games and they've wanted to hear stories.
Yeah.
And for stories, I am positive that many evolutionary psychologists think it's a very important part of what makes a human. It's what allowed religion to exist. It's what allowed us to actually beat the Neanderthals. People don't know is we could band together. Neanderthals could only have a tribe of up to a certain amount, and then because they couldn't tell story, they couldn't really unite themselves. So we, just by being weaker, just mowed them down one at a time in their small packs. And that was through our ability to unite via story. I think there's probably a similar mechanic for games, because you look through and you just see them played throughout time. When given time, humans do not naturally just sit down and do nothing. They don't just enter blissful meditation. Yeah. They get a ball or a stick, whatever it is. And so if you can make a game that has an amazing story, you are hitting on 2 things that seem to be hardwired into humans. And there's no reason to think that won't continue to exist in some form forever, right? Because we often talk about YouTube can't be around forever. VR's coming. Online courses can't be around forever. Something will replace it. Story in games in some form seems like it's just part of being human.
Yeah. And they update, but people still play Tetris. It's the #1 selling game of all time. It's Tetris.
Yeah. Words with Friends on mobile.
Yeah.
It's just Scrabble. It's been around for decades.
And so, of course, games in a single iteration of a game probably won't last forever, but they've got a long lifespan if they're done well. I mean, board games are incredibly popular today, and really what they're doing oftentimes is taking board games, porting them onto a video game. Like we talked about this, there's Risk, which everybody's familiar with, but there's this Total War series, which is essentially what you thought of in your brain when you were playing Risk and you were imagining those tiny little pieces banging into each other. You get to see it and in a more visually, what is the word? True form.
No, and I think this is another area where the stigma is going away. Because I remember I loved video games when I was a kid, right? When I was younger. But then at some point when I was in my 20s, it's like, this is a waste of time. These are stupid.
Yeah.
I shouldn't do these. What I should do is play basketball, because that's a lot less stupid because it's not on a screen, right? That's how I felt. I think that's going away. I think as you see people becoming millionaires playing video games, as people grow up having always had them, like my parents didn't have them. So when they see them, it's this strange thing. But when you're 18 now, you've had them from the day you were born. And you were growing up on an iPad even, maybe. Like, that's how your parents parented. So I think the stigma's going away too, which means it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah. The other thing that I didn't realize, I was watching some of the games that I loved, and I don't know which came first, my interest in philosophy or if games made me interested, but I wasn't aware at the time. All of the games that I was really into had philosophical underpinnings. So there's this one game, do you ever play Xenogears?
No.
Okay, so these are my nerdy Japanese games.
I was just going to say, nerd. No, dude, I was playing Madden. No.
It's got, and I didn't know it at the time, I was 10. It's got, the main character has an alter ego called id, and it's destructive and all of these things. There are several characters in the game named after psychotherapists who are not prominent enough for me to have read at 32 years old, but I understand some of their philosophy from having played this game. The guy's name is Lacan. I've never read him, but it's like I know a little bit about this idea that you repeat throughout history and all these different things. So I wasn't realizing that I was getting doses of philosophy as a kid. And this game Xenogears is essentially talking about how, as a child, what you discover is that you had this traumatic event, you fractured into these different things, and all of these different pieces of yourself kind of get embodied. And so one of them is when stuff goes really bad, all of a sudden id shows up and it starts killing and murdering everything. So without ever having read Freud or totally understood it, I was fascinated in these ideas, and the game culminates in being able to pull those all together. And then you get this upgrade and your guy gets super armor and he becomes super cool.
Because he's integrated.
Because he's integrated.
Fully integrated.
Right?
No, and they've also done studies on how certain video games will help you as a child with your spatial relations, with your problem solving. Like they're certainly, they're not the mindless bubblegum for the brain that I was raised thinking that they were.
Yeah. So the idea that you could create two things, and the best games have it. There's the small loop and there's the big loop. The big loop is the story. The small loop is the gameplay, the fight, the whatever. And oftentimes you'll have games that have one but not the other. So you find yourself slogging through gameplay that is really boring because the overarching story is fascinating.
Sure.
Or there's another game where it's like, oh, the battles are really interesting, but like, what am I doing? I'm just getting more points, and like, I don't care about the overarching narrative of this.
Yeah.
But when you get both of those, you have a piece of art.
Yeah.
You have
Final
something.
Fantasy VII, man. when she dies, spoiler, someone dies. Devastating for me. I was 12 or something, and a tear came to my eye as this pixelated character fell to her death.
Yeah. And I think what I didn't totally grasp at the time, and the reason that I thought that video games were lame, is because there are so many, mobile games being a great example, that only have the small loop but don't have the big loop. It's just this addictive cycle of coins to more coins to kill this guy to bigger numbers, and there's no overarching story, no message, nothing but the mindless small loop. And it was those types of games that made me think, I can't continue to play this. In fact, it was the repetitive nature of StarCraft Online, which was over and over and over and over again, the same sort of fights, the same sort of thing, that made me go, I can't do this. But the main game of that, and many other ones, are satisfying, potentially enriching stories that are also engaging and fun to play. And
the Witcher video game is an incredible story that's just as good as the books. Some people think better than the books.
Yeah. And so anyway, I was in reviewing some of these and thinking about it, I was recognizing that I had been very critical on the decisions that I made when I was younger without appreciating what I was given, because I was like, I wasted 50 hours playing this game.
This is our version of studying calligraphy, okay? Apple was only successful because Steve Jobs studied calligraphy. Back when we were losers and we were hanging out alone playing video games,
Back when.
it was actually our calligraphy.
Not like last night when we were in separate rooms on walkie-talkies.
Well, that I don't think we're learning as much. What I'm saying
I agree.
is
So we've been playing Apex Legends. Now there's a third thing that I haven't brought up. There's single player games which have a small loop and a big loop, and you ideally want both. But then there's these. That's when you're playing against a computer. It doesn't feel good to just beat the computer and have the best SimCity at the end of the day and go, what was this for? But when you're playing with some other human, there's this cooperative element that keeps games fresh for so long. Sure. You know what I mean? Like the fact that we are playing this Apex Legends game together on the same team, screaming at each other, makes it have something else that is addictive. And I don't know if it's good for our relationship or good for us.
It's good for us. I like to stay in the background. It's a 3-player game, and so you and your brother really just come into full brother mode. It's like any other activity with you guys. It's just I just sit back and I let you guys tear each other apart while I quietly try to have fun.
Good luck. This isn't fun.
There's no crying in baseball.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what I've been up to. I've been reading a lot about this. If you can't tell, I actually think the next video on Dave Chappelle is solid. It's good, but I'm feeling like I've said a lot of what I have to say with regards to charisma and that sort of stuff. I'm going to keep making for the channel, but we've been looking for someone else. I'm going to slow down. If you've been watching the main channel, you can tell I've taken weeks off. There's something else that needs to open up for us in our business and for me in my life. And I don't know if it's going to be video games or music or psychedelics next, but I'm very much like...
A video game you can only play on psychedelics. It's just you hold a controller, nothing's actually on the screen, you just play in your brain.
It's a music simulator.
Yeah.
So this is what I've been spending a lot of time thinking on. But Dave Chappelle's good.
All right.
I think it came out solid. And if you guys have any good breakdown suggestions, I have some, but quite frankly, I've done a lot of
also
the big ones.
Good would be, this person is very genuinely charismatic, not just someone that you are a fan of, but also someone that's popular. Because sometimes people will ask us, oh, will you please do this obscure person? They're so charismatic. And unless there's something incredibly unique to be learned, the rest of the audience might not want to see that.
Which is unfortunate, because I've done this in the past. We've made smaller people that I thought, this guy's got something interesting to say, or this woman is particularly interesting, and it gets seen by a fifth as many people, which is ultimately a bummer. I'd rather make one on Keanu and get seen by much larger audience.
But if you think there is someone who's popular and genuinely charismatic, let us know.
Yep. Cool. Anything else?
Yeah. So we're already rocking on an hour. I have more stuff, but it's not time sensitive.
Go ahead. Yeah. We can cut stuff.
All right. So this one is something I was thinking about in because of Kobe Bryant's unfortunate death. So Kobe Bryant, for anyone who doesn't know, died in a helicopter accident.
Everybody knows, yeah.
Yep. Super sad. Same way my uncle passed away. It's very tragic. The one thing I thought was interesting that stood out to me, other than the terrible news coverage, which I don't want to talk about unless you want to talk about it, but the fact that so many people were crying because of it. I read Reddit NBA every day. I just love the NBA. And so many people who have never met Kobe Bryant, have no personal experience with him, were so devastated to the point of crying. And it's interesting because I suspect that for a lot of these people, if a neighbor had passed away in the exact same way, they would not have cried. Someone that they have met and shook hands with and they see, let's say, once a week for years, and they die in the exact same tragic way of a helicopter accident. I don't think that they would have cried, certainly not all of them. And it made me think of The Rock, because The Rock does a skit where he surprises people who aren't expecting him, and one of the people he surprises is a guy with The Rock tattoo, and the guy is an adult, 30-something years old, seems like a regular, masculine man, and he immediately starts to cry. He's so overwhelmed with emotions. And it made me think that, at least in the US, we have a bit of an odd culture where people feel raised by their celebrities. The celebrity goes beyond just a famous person who's good at basketball or good at wrestling to a person that is idolized, and then even beyond someone who's idolized, a parental figure almost, and all these people in the Reddit NBA were saying, I can't believe he's gone. I looked up to him so much. I learned so much from him. And it's just interesting because I feel like simultaneously we're losing community. Because like I said, there would be much you wouldn't necessarily cry if it were a neighbor. And I don't really have a takeaway, but that was just something I noticed that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, I know that you can't make this, but how close do you think Kobe Bryant is in the family unit? Well, it's tough to do. Take the average Kobe Bryant fan, and this is someone who likes basketball, who likes Kobe Bryant, not someone who's heard of Kobe Bryant. Where does he fit in the family unit, do you think? Do you think he's a cousin, a second uncle? Do you
father.
think? This is not the average Kobe Bryant fan.
Oh, sorry.
That's the most diehard Kobe Bryant
Sorry,
fan.
I thought you were saying what archetype do I think?
No.
How
yes,
close do people feel to him?
He's the archetypal father in the sense that he plays this idealized role of what you want to be. I mean, like, oh man, my cousin died, I feel this affected by it. Or versus, oh, my dad died, I feel this affected by it. Or, my second uncle.
I don't know, man. I think some of these guys, I mean, I guess maybe your cousin, but like, I think people have second cousins that die and they don't cry. Like that they're
Well, these people
to.
might not be representative of every Kobe Bryant. Henry likes, my brother liked Kobe Bryant. He didn't cry.
They're not. But I'm just saying, that's why I'm saying these people. Because some people will just cry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people just, that's their go-to thing. But I'm saying take the people who cried, not just Kobe Bryant fans. In this population, in this pie chart, not 100% of these people would cry if a neighbor died or if a non-nuclear family member were to die. That's all I'm saying. Like, they can be so upset about a celebrity death and less upset about the death of someone that they know. And certainly less upset than the death of a child that they don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have a takeaway. This isn't to say anyone's good or bad. I just thought it was interesting that there are people who feel like they are raised by what they see on TV.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think, I wonder if that is wrong of them.
I'm not saying it is. It's actually
No, I don't mean like morally wrong. Like, weren't they raised by Kobe Bryant in some significant way?
And maybe they aren't. I mean, the reason they wouldn't cry from the death of their neighbor is that they weren't close to their neighbor. That's kind of my point. Is I've talked about this before. It's very well accepted that community would make a human being happy. That a close-knit community is not necessary for happiness, but it contributes in a very positive way.
Yeah.
And I think we're losing that.
And there's no opportunity for Kobe to have an interaction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can love Kobe with your heart and cry when he dies. And I am not saying that that's bad. What I'm noticing is that he's not part of your community, though. He would not reach out to you. And so some people are going to comment, say, that's not true, I met him. Not everyone that was upset has him as part of their community.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I think is interesting. It just reminded me really of our lack of connection with our neighbors, or our lack of connection with all of our family.
If you had kids, how much TV do you think you'd let them watch? / screen time?
I never put any thought to it.
Yeah.
I have heard that if you ban, let's say a kid only gets 1 hour of television a day from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., that the whole day becomes an anticipation of that 7 to 8 p.m. So I don't think that's a good solution necessarily. And to our point we just talked about, you can't ban video games because they're a crucial part of learning, and they tell great stories and this and that. So I don't know. And I'm not saying this is bad. It makes me long for a community for myself and for other people. I think we always talk about this. Starvation is going down. Wealth is going up. The amount of people that have high quality lives relative to the people 1,000 years ago is astronomical. And we have tons of depression and suicidal people and anxiety. And I guess I see that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I attribute that to loneliness to some degree and a lack of connection as well. So I don't know the answer. It just seems like everything is moving in the right direction socially except for that.
Do you think that it's possible to have an increased standard of living as measured by GDP and items without having an increase in depression and suicide?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
I mean, at the size of a society.
You're saying you're saying an hypothesis would be, as food is more plentiful and people lose purpose in the sense that I'm not spending my day struggling to hunt,
they have
it creates
idle time
for me with which to be depressed. Maybe. I think a cure for it would be community, though. I think it's certainly seems like a hallmark of depression, maybe not anxiety, but of depression and suicidalness is feeling lonely and disconnected and unloved. And like, there's so many people in the world, and you look on Instagram and they're all so happy, but yet for you, your friend won't pick up your call or whatever it might be. And I wish that we had a more systemic way. I mean, so one of the things I'm going to start doing is focusing more on improving Charisma University, because I think it's awesome, but could be improved. And I think there's an opportunity there to connect people who are in the course together. I think we can use technology to connect more, and it's not currently being done excellently. And I think that's why people on so many forums are talking about how they're lonely and depressed. And
do you notice, I mean, I noticed this in myself. People don't seem to want, I know that they long for connection, but they don't seem to move towards it, to want it. There's opportunities. Meetup.com has existed for God knows how long.
Yeah, there's
it
a
is
lot
not
of
as popular as YouTube.
There's a lot of inertia in loneliness. And what I mean by, so inertia is this idea that once something is not moving, it's hard to get it moving. And also when it's moving, it's hard to stop it. But that's less important for this. But yeah, I think when you're lonely, there is a lot of inertia to just stay alone, weirdly enough. I think this is true of depressed. I mean, I think any depressed person would vouch for this. You can have people giving you advice. You can know what might make you feel better, but you don't want to do it in the moment.
And let's hop into whatever you've got.
So currently it's illegal in 30 US states to not tell your partner if you're about to have sex with HIV, but organizations like the Ohio Health Modernization Movement are looking to change that. So the current prevalent thought is that when you have sexual conduct, there are two parties to that conduct, and the other person has a right to know and has a right to be informed to the decision to engage in the sexual conduct. However, medical advancements have helped turn HIV from a fatal infection into a manageable chronic condition. And the Center for Disease Control recently announced that if people take antiretroviral drugs as prescribed, the amount of HIV in their blood becomes so undetectable that they actually have very little risk of passing the virus to a partner through sex and can live just normal lives with like the expected longevity. So the organization says a lot has happened since 1999 and lawmakers don't necessarily know that. And let's be honest, a lot of citizens, who aren't lawmakers don't know the advances that have been made in science and the reasons that we believe, and those are the reasons that we believe this law should be modernized.
Meaning modernized would mean to make it not a criminal
so act. It's not a criminal offense to just not tell people that
I had a roller coaster ride on that story right there. At first I was like, you have to be kidding me. Like this is right. You're signing someone up. You're basically just putting a slow moving bullet in their head.
You're saying you think it's crazy that it's only 30 states that say that it's.
So my first reaction was HIV is you pulled the trigger and it's just moving slowly at me and it's going to get me or just destroy the quality of my life. And then as he was describing, we have these things, you can take a pill, it won't kill you. Then I go, okay, let's pretend that it never kills anyone. Now you have what you could describe as herpes. And there's no laws against that. There's no laws that say you have to disclose herpes. And this is one of the weirdest things that our laws don't have, but I understand why. You can lie with rare exception and not disclose things with rare exception that are important to people, with the exception of fraud.
Just to be clear, I think some states do say that you have to say you have herpes.
Do you really?
I think so.
Interesting.
I think some states say that if you have an STD or an STI, you have to tell your partner.
So this is the thing. The lines drawn around STDs are so silly, because if you have a cold, that's an STD. If you don't think you can transmit a cold through sexual contact, you're insane.
Wait, so how did your roller coaster ride end before we get into
I don't know how it's ending. I'm trying to figure it out. So here's what it was. At first, I was staunchly like, only 30 states, it needs to be 50. You're killing people.
Yeah.
Then he goes and describes, okay, there's this thing that you can get. Now, who knows access to it? Who knows how true? Let's just pretend for the sake of argument.
It's free if you go to the right company.
So let's just pretend for
this is the thing that I don't have HIV, but the same drug that you take that makes HIV basically a non-issue.
Yeah.
If you take it and you don't have HIV, it prevents HIV.
Yeah.
So I was kind of going through this phase where I was like, I'm going to think about going to some sex parties and like doing some crazy orgy stuff. Like I'll go on PrEP and then I won't get HIV, and you can get it for free if you go through the right companies. But 1 in 1,000 people gets really itchy. And that's me. So I just skipped the orgies and stopped taking it.
So great story, by the way. I remember that. You couldn't sleep for days.
Dude. It doesn't get out of your system. So it stays in your, it's not like you take it so you take it and it's in your system for like 2 days. So it took me 3 days to realize that my horrible ability to not sleep because I was in physical pain was from the pills.
Yeah.
Then I stopped. You still don't get to sleep for 2 days. So it's just like
super fun.
Oh, this is the best.
At least you don't have HIV, right?
Yeah.
No, but so then I go, okay, if it is just a pill and you're managing a virus that won't kill you, that is kind of what herpes is, right? It's a virus that will not kill you that you manage with retrovirals. And we don't have laws against that. So then maybe we should treat it similarly if that is the case.
Why not just have laws for all of it that say you just disclose all of it? Like,
what if you have a cold and I don't disclose that I have a cold?
I don't know. Maybe you got to disclose that too. But I think HIV can kill you. So let's start with just
What if
HIV.
you-
For a second, forget herpes. HIV can kill you, right?
Mm-hmm. So can a cold.
Well, if you had let's say you knew you had something that was an insane flu, right? Like some sort of super bacteria
It's called
thing.
the flu. The flu sucks.
We'll call it worse than the flu.
Okay.
I just want to say
Pneumonia.
something that can kill you. I think you should have to tell people that you have it.
What if you think your pneumonia is the flu?
Well, that's the thing. So if you have HIV, you know you have HIV. That's like one of the things.
We're assuming for the argument's sake.
You know you have it, right?
Yeah.
So if you knew you had something that was potentially deadly, I think you should disclose it, whether it's sexually transmitted or high five transmitted or whatever.
And I just want to, I know that you mean this, but morally you should tell anybody when you have a cold or a herpes or an HIV, you should tell them morally. We're talking legally, right?
Yes, but I'm saying even legally, why not? Like, this person's argument seems a little silly to me because they're going, well, why should I have to tell people that I have HIV? It's a non-issue. It's like, okay, well, why don't you just tell them you have HIV, tell them you're on PrEP, and explain to them it's a non-issue? And maybe some people won't want to sleep with you.
Why should the government be involved in that?
Public safety, because it can kill you.
So the reason,
Because if you don't know that you have it, you can die.
Yeah. So you were going to say something?
the reason this article was specifically published was because of a story of a guy who he told his girlfriend that he had HIV, and then later on she took him to court and said that he didn't. So it's basically his word against hers, but because of the laws saying like you have to disclose it, they just ruled in favor of her.
Well, and they were unable to establish.
Right.
So this is the other thing, is that even leaving these ones, we don't know what happened out of it. The argument against having it be illegal is that, well, okay, if you want to say that this could kill you, under what? I mean, sex can kill you. You could have a heart attack. You know what I mean? Do I have to disclose that to you? Like,
well, that's your own heart, and that's, I mean, the question is,
this person might not know that you're so good that they could have a heart attack.
I mean, who maybe you should legislate against is the food that led to that heart attack.
Sure.
Maybe
but
fast food should have the same warnings that cigarettes do.
You can make arguments for colds, for a fever, fever can kill you.
Well,
Colds
I think
can kill you.
I think I can actually, if we ask enough questions, get to a philosophically consistent rule.
Sure.
Because, for instance, I like that in California there are signs that say stuff can give you cancer. Like, if you go, I go skateboard in our garage, and in the garage it says there are diesel fumes burned here, and it's an enclosed space. The fumes here can give you cancer. Don't spend a lot of time in here. Cool. I think that's a good sign. So to your heart attack point, I think certain food, I think soda should probably have some sort of warning on it that says this is pure sugar linked with diabetes and heart attacks. And so I think similarly, like, if you have HIV, you should be like, my genitals have something that could kill you. And then if the reason that,
what if you have a cold though? If you're saying, if I have something that has a small chance of killing you, I must disclose it or face criminal charges. What if you have a cold?
I mean, I think you should tell people when you have a cold if you're going to kiss them.
I agree.
But the question
So
is,
morally, we're all on the same page.
Legislatively.
Tell people if you think you're sick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, legislating it.
I mean, a cold isn't so much of it can't kill you, right? So
That's
it's
actually
not,
what kills you when you have HIV. Is the cold. It's not the HIV.
Yeah, but so what you're saying is you have to ask everyone what their immune strength is.
Yeah. No, and then should you have to tell them, okay, I had a cough. I coughed 3 times in the morning. I think I might have a cold. You know, turns out it's clearly difficult. And there was at one point where HIV was so far to the side where it was like so close to a death sentence in many years that it just went, okay, we're gonna do this one. But what they're saying is, no, it's moving closer towards fever, or it's moving closer towards.
I guess the one thing I don't love about this is like this person is saying, I am going to make this decision for you, because I'm going to say that I have this thing, but I'm on this pill. So it's pretty safe, which apparently it is. It's like, 1 in 1,000 people would get it. 999 people of 1,000 wouldn't. I'm going to make this decision for you because I think it's safe for you. And I just don't, I think, why not just tell them and let them decide if they're willing to take a 0.1% risk or not? You
and I actually might agree. I think where we're getting caught is moral versus legal. So I 100% agree with you. That's messed up to go, you know what? I'm going to be paternalistic here. I know how safe this is. Don't you worry about it. That's wrong. Should the government be involved and criminalize that behavior? And there's a lot of things that people can do that are wrong. People lie. People can lie pretty much with impunity in social circles.
Well, not if it hurts you. Not if it causes like harm, right? If it costs you money, if they lie to steal from you.
Yes. Money. So money is a big one. But there's actually there's been weird cases where, here's an example. I say to you, I walk up to you in a New York City bar. I'm a strapping young gentleman. You're a young lady. I go, I just got promoted at Goldman today. It's pretty great there. We talk all night about my dreams for the future, that. I take you back to this nice swanky apartment. We sleep together, and you find out that's my uncle's apartment. I'm the delivery boy.
You're unemployed. You're unemployed.
And you would not have slept with me if not for that lie. As far as I understand, there's no criminal recourse to that. I don't think. I think you are allowed. Here's another one. Oh yeah, babe, I definitely want a serious relationship. You gonna put every guy like that in jail? You know what I mean?
Sir, at the time. It depends what the definition of serious is, Your Honor.
No, people, if you tried to stop people from lying, you'd have to put everyone in jail. And so what we do is we enforce it morally, and we shame those people, and we say that's bad, and this guy's an awful person. But we go, the legal system must rest in this case.
Well, I do wonder if it's an extent of harm, right? And I get it, like, obviously no one wants to be manipulated, but there are degrees of life impact. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is exactly the point that they're making. There are degrees of life impact. It used to impact your life to this degree, and it has now fallen below the threshold upon which we need to criminally enforce it. Mm-hmm. And I think you would agree with me. It's what's relevant is, well, how much is it? Is it 0.00001% it gets transmitted? And if it gets transmitted, it's this, and then it goes, all right, because in that case, I got to tell everybody about every cough, everything, everything that I think, oh, by the way, here's my whole, medical history. And maybe one day I'll be able to show you my Apple thing. You could scan it against yours, and then we can have a nice algorithm that goes.
Flew 4 months ago, huh? Questionable.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying, though, because you're putting yourself reasonably in the position of someone who is not been told that they've just slept with someone.
Weirdly enough, that's right where my mind goes in this scenario. I go, okay, I just had sex with someone, or I'm on a date with someone, and they have HIV. Do I think they should tell me?
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's where my brain goes.
Of course, they definitely should. I agree with you.
Yeah, your point is that the law and the involvement of the U.S. government is not the same as the morality that we would want.
Yeah. No, people can lie, man. People. That's kind of it's. If you dig into it, it makes sense, the understanding of it and why the legal system stays out. But you really can lie about a lot of stuff. Now,
selfishly, I say get involved here, government.
Yeah. It's a. I guess what I felt was that it was a reasonable philosophical case that this person is putting forward.
No, I get it. I get the question. And it, separate from all this, like it is remarkable how far they've come with the fact that this medicine is, I don't know how it's free. It gets subsidized, I guess, from somewhere else, but there's this basically free medicine that just makes it so that they can't even detect HIV in your blood.
Insane, man.
Like, you have it, not only do you not have symptoms, the blood test can't find it.
So HIV/AIDS was the boogeyman when I was middle school, high school.
Only reason I didn't do intravenous drugs when I was a young child.
It was just
10, 11 years old.
It was like, look, you're not going to get cancer because you're too young, which of course isn't necessarily true because those things happen. But like the one that can happen, you know what I mean? If you make the wrong decisions, is HIV.
Yeah, which is weird because I never knew anyone with HIV growing up, but I did know kids that got cancer.
Yep. Yeah, which is, I guess you can't really control cancer as much. It's.
I think it's more just so you don't get like what you're told to be scared of and what you should be scared of don't line up. Yeah. But I agree. We got a lot of messages about how dangerous HIV was.
And now it's like, I don't know, it's you take a pill, which is great. Good job, science.
Yeah, it's crazy. They can't cure it, but they just make it go into hiding. Like
Which
when
is
you get mono. Like I got mono. I have mono. That's a virus. It lives inside me. But
Should you have to disclose?
It just kills. I would happily.
Yeah, you wouldn't care.
It's not contagious is the thing. Like you can't necessarily get mono from me because I'm not having a mono flare up. I think it's only contagious in the first time that you have it.
Got it.
Or if it did flare up when I got a concussion.
Yeah.
My body was terrifying because then I thought I had HIV because you get these, like your tonsils just go all white.
Yeah.
And I went insane Googling stuff and was like, oh no, WebMD says that it could. My doctor was like, dude, this is not what it looks like. I'm a doctor, I'm telling you. I was like, you have to test me.
You have to test me.
This poor guy, he begrudgingly did. But yeah, he's just like, I hate WebMD. But it did flare up. And then in that moment, it would have been contagious. And I do think I should have had to tell people if I was going to kiss you.
100%, man. That did not look fun.
Yeah.
I remember you spitting into a cup for weeks.
Yeah. And I would not be upset if there was a legislation that said that in that moment where I was contagious, that I had to tell people I had mono. It's like, seems reasonable.
Yeah. I don't think you could have faked him out.
I literally had a cup. I couldn't swallow my own spit. No, I'm fine. You look really pretty tonight.
All right.
I'm not that charismatic.
What else do we have?
We can move on to fan questions.
Sure.
So the first one is from Isaac. He says, this is mainly addressed to Charlie.
Okay.
And from my understanding, you apply the idea of autonomy to yourself and the idea of determinism to others. Do you reconcile the idea of a conscious and personal responsibility / control, such as mentioned in 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, with your deterministic beliefs? And if so, what mindset do you carry to account for both?
So I actually think the first question, determinism for others, accountability for me, is more of you.
It is, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's more you. I'm more like determinist.
Across the board. Charlie forgives himself. He has no autonomy
for
in the
everything
matter.
before I even do it. Yeah.
Couldn't be helped.
So this is a great question, because what it kind of exposes in me, and I think in people, is the different kind of like layers of the human mind. I would say for 98% of my experience, I feel as if I have conscious control, free will in the way that everyone else conceives of it. And that's my sense of it, right? That's how I go through my day. And that's the language that I will use when I speak to my friends. What should we do? What do we want to do? I don't really want to do that. No, we can't let that happen. You know, like that's how I
You act like you're in
talk
control.
and feel. And at no point in my brain am I going, but that's not, like, that's what it seems to me. But when I sit down and think about it deeply, I always come back to this deterministic worldview. So how do they fit together? Well, the good news is it doesn't matter what I think if determinism is ultimately true, because all of those thoughts were just deterministic, you know, me acting out my own illusion of free will. So that's kind of what I think is happening. And sorry, there was the last bit of the question, 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem.
So do you reconcile the idea of a conscious and personal responsibility / control, such as mentioned in the 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem?
So I actually, one of the most useful models that I've found to bring together these different, completely opposite feelings that I have, which is, on the one hand, you need to assume, self-esteem is all about assuming responsibility for your life. And on the other hand, we live in a deterministic universe. Like, how do those coalesce? Is there's models of ego development. There's spiral dynamics. They go by different names. But the basic arc of these is that you start out as an infant and you're almost undifferentiated from your environment. In fact, whatever consciousness is there in the womb is just like everything is one. And then you come out into the world and you're forming a self, you grow up, you become a teenager, you try on these different identities, but you don't have a strong sense of self. Friends encourage you to smoke, so you smoke, you know. And at some point, if you're fortunate, in your 20s, you get a sense, and by 30 you have this is who I am, this is what I like, this is what I don't like.
For some people.
And these are the ages really that were my life. I'm not saying that your life needs to follow these exact things. In that first arc, it's all about personal responsibility, independence, and acting as if free will is the rule of the universe. And that will take you very far and improve your life. And then I actually think you get to a point, which is where I would say that I feel that I'm currently sort of experimenting with and exploring, where it's dissolving that self that you've made and recognizing in many ways that you are not as separate as you had pretended to be from your environment, from other people, that this that the self that you're talking about is in fact a construction, which means that free will, which you thought this was myself acting freely in a world that is separate from me, doesn't totally hold up and isn't tenable. So what I would say is, in different aspects of my daily life, I probably approach it from the free will perspective, in fact, in most aspects. But as I get older, you'll hear me say things about myself that is more, let it be. Like allow it to happen, surrender. All of these things are concepts that in my 20s, I mean, we were so adamantly against the concept of like, be yourself or surrender.
Yeah.
Like, no, choose yourself.
Choose yourself.
Go out, struggle against the world that's trying to hold you back.
Yeah. Don't be yourself, choose yourself.
Exactly. And it was perfect. I wouldn't change it for that time period. But as I get older, for me, it's more determinism. But if somebody comes to me and they're an 18-year-old and they don't know who they are yet, I'm going to go read 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to? I know that was towards me.
I say the same thing every time, which is it just depends what your goal is. Mm-hmm. So let's pretend your goal is to be happy. For your be yourself, choose yourself. Are you happy? Awesome. Be yourself. Are you unhappy? I have great news for you. You don't have to just be yourself. You can choose yourself.
Yeah.
You want to be someone who has more friends? You can be more charismatic. You can start doing blah, 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 right? And so my question is always just, what's your goal? Your goal is to be enlightened. Cool. Do you feel like you're being enlightened? Okay, well then you should just go meditate. I don't care if that's determinist, that when the Big Bang happened, it was fate that I was going to tell you this, or if we're two autonomous beings. If you want to be enlightened, you have to meditate. So go meditate. So yeah, mine is more just like, what are you aiming for? Okay, cool. Act accordingly. And if you're achieving everything that you're aiming for, keep doing your thing. And if you're unhappy with the results of your life, then adjust your actions.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. Very sophisticated question. I appreciate it.
Next is from Ishan. Very
question.
Yeah, very, very open question. He says, how do I make up with my friend who stopped being friends with me because I dated his ex?
Oh man.
Want to clarify, I'm asking for a friend.
That's the part. That's why I laughed, because I saw it just asking for a friend.
How do I?
How does one?
So I mean,
it says dated or hooked up with?
Dated.
So they had an ex-girlfriend and you're dated or dating?
Dating.
You're dating.
I guess it's in the past. Dating.
It sounds like it's in the past.
Well, that's going to be easier, honstly. Yeah. That's easier to reconcile.
Sure. So it sounds like, so here's what I would sit down and start with is, start with an honest post-mortem of what happened. And where I suspect you have to wind up at is you were so excited, lonely, and desirous that you...
Maybe jealous when they were dating, whatever it is.
That you completely ignored what would be good for your friend in your decision to date their ex. That you did not care if you hurt them, if it made you happy. Because you were so excited, desirous.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, honestly, and maybe you feel terrible about that, and maybe you don't. But you're going to need a low ego moment here where you get honest about your emotions.
Ask yourself what thoughts about your friend's well-being went through your head when you made these early stage decisions to date his ex. And the only thing I don't know what culture you necessarily come from, but I don't know any where it'd be like, oh, it didn't even occur to me that it would upset him. Like what it probably was is, oh, I knew this would be terrible for him, and yeah, I didn't care. I wanted what I wanted so badly that I didn't care. So if that's the case,
because of something, loneliness, insecurity, desire, lust, whatever it is. But I would identify that too.
And here's the other tough thing. Now that you're out of this relationship, ask yourself why you've waited till now to try to reconcile with your friend. And I think what you may find is that it's the same exact selfish motivator that led you to date his ex in the first place, which is, I'm lonely and I need someone now.
Or maybe at the time you felt massive guilt and you just didn't want to deal with confronting it.
Your friend, not you.
Sorry.
Your friend.
Maybe your friend felt massive guilt and didn't want to confront it. And so it was easier to just ignore it. You didn't want to rip the Band-Aid off. You didn't want to have that hard conversation. So out of guilt and those other negative emotions, you went, I'm going to go ostrich on this. Put my head in the sand and...
And then ask yourself, honestly, given the chance to improve my own circumstances at the cost of what I at the cost of my friend's experience and what I would like my friend to do to me, situations reversed, have I learned a lesson, or would I make a similar decision in the future? Now, very basic. Would you ever date this friend's ex, a different ex, again? And be honest, and you might be compelled to say, no, of course not. But like, ask yourself, you're sitting there, he's got this beautiful girl, they've been dating for 8 months, they split up. She really says she likes you and have you internalized anything that's made you change? There's a business opportunity. You need to undercut your friend in order to get it. What have you learned about the value of this friendship?
And don't go with what you think you're supposed to have learned.
Yeah.
Don't
and
pretend that you are someone you're not.
This is all just honest self-reflection.
This is for you.
Yeah, this is truly for you. Because what you're going to do then is take this honest self-reflection and then say it to your friend.
Yep.
And what you might come to is, I don't deserve to be your friend because I'd stab you in the back again given 2 seconds to do it. And then maybe you just keep that to yourself for a while. Or you can even go to them and tell them, be like, yeah, I'm completely untrustworthy, and if you want to associate with me knowing that. But the more important than what you say to him is this period of reflection. So I don't even want to get to what you say to him. Just really sit down and ask yourself these kinds of questions. Any other questions that you would ask in this?
Well, I was going to get to what to say.
Yeah, before. I'm just curious if you have any. Okay, well, go ahead.
So yeah, then what I would say is you get with the friend and you have an honest, emotionally vulnerable conversation where you don't try to excuse what you did. You don't try to make yourself the good guy.
Don't try to persuade.
Yeah, I think
that's the other thing.
The only thing you can do here is kind of confess your sins, which is to say, if you do feel badly, to go, listen, man, I fucked up. And at the time I was really jealous of you and I was really lonely and I did a very selfish thing that I feel very bad about now. And I regret it. I wish I hadn't done it. And I would like to see if we can have a friendship again. I'm
gonna even start by like asking your forgiveness.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
Like,
sure. Yeah. I want to, and say like, this is, and I'm not excusing it. I'm just explaining where I was, and it is inexcusable. And I would just have a honest, vulnerable conversation where you come out and you show where you were mentally that led you there, and you admit that's not an excuse. It doesn't justify it. You know. And I would, because I think the thing that won't work is trying to minimize what you did, trying to make yourself out to be not the bad guy, trying to explain why it's her fault. She said that she liked me, yeah. That's not going to get you there. The only thing that might get you there is if he goes, okay, it sucked, but I appreciate your honesty here, and I get that you were in a bad place or whatever it is, and it looks like you've learned something, and I'm seeing genuine regret. That's your only path forward, I think.
Yeah. And at some point, this person not only needs to forgive you, but they need to be able to trust reasonably that you're not going to stab them in the back again. And quite frankly, few people in their lives have probably, I'm not saying you, your friend, betrayed them in such an intimate way.
Or you have a friend group that doesn't care.
Or you have a friend group that doesn't care.
But then you wouldn't be asking this question.
Yeah.
But there are, I just want to clarify, there are groups, everybody hooks up with everybody's ex, no one cares, and then you wouldn't have to have this emotionally charged conversation, and you wouldn't have to promise not to do it again, but they would be hooking up with your ex at the same time, and you'd be, and like, this happens too, and it's not wrong, but I'm just judging it by the question itself.
Yeah, I'm presuming this is a betrayal.
I had a friend date my ex. I thought it was great because it freed me from it was a terrible relationship.
Yeah.
I didn't notice at the time we were in high school. She was bipolar. It led to a bunch of terribleness.
Oh, you had another friend. I thought you were talking about a different ex.
Oh no, well, separate things. So then I had another. I date wonderful women. My friends see that and they get interested. No, there's another one. I broke up with this woman. She wanted to get married. I felt really guilty that I didn't feel the same. She dated a friend, and I was like, great. Now she has another chance. So maybe he doesn't care at all.
Yeah.
I'm just basing it on the question that he does, because those guys didn't. The one guy called me, and I was just like, yeah, we don't have to have this conversation. Yeah. I think it's great.
You're all good.
I demand to be invited to the wedding.
Yeah.
So our serious, somber tone in answering is only based on what we're picking up from the question. But there are definitely friends that wouldn't care, and then this conversation would be very easy.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I think that's it.
Okay, last one is from Anonymous, and they say, I have been trying to work on myself and find what I am lacking within myself in light of a recent relationship ending. I have been reading and watching videos, mostly yours, like crazy, over the past month, and have started to feel better and get to know myself more through it. However, my desire to improve as fast as possible leads me to feel like I have too much to think about and I'm afraid I might end up more confused than before I started self-improving. Do you think a person can overindulge in self-help or take in too much information in too little time and end up worse because you can't focus on one thing at a time? I feel like I'm thinking too much about what I should be doing / feeling. P.S. I have not started just because of the relationship ending, but because I have been feeling like my life was lacking even before this. I'm 19 years old and in college.
Great. Yeah, no, I mean, you nailed it. Your intuition is dead on. That here's the good news. I'm glad that you said your age, because this is something I have to remind myself at 32, 13 years older than you, is that there's, if I'm fortunate, so much time. Like the rush that I know that you probably feel to get out of this uncomfortable situation of post-breakup and into the type of person that this could never happen to again, right? I get that. I've lived it, and I still need to tell myself, slow down. There's so much time. What your challenge is, and mine to this day, is in integrating what you know. And when I say integrating, I mean making all of the things that you have cognitively read and perhaps could recite and get on a test, because that's what learning has been to you if you've been in the school system up until now, getting them into your body, such that, for instance, if you're learning charisma, it's one thing to know, oh, like, let me tell you about how to make good eye contact, and like, here are the 5 keys to a story, versus consistently telling stories that show those 5 elements.
No, and just to be clear, I do not think binge watching our channel is the best way to become charismatic.
No.
In fact, if you were to join Charisma University or see inside it, it is not multi-hour days that lay out 10 things to do that day. It's 20 to 30 minutes, one thing to focus on for the day. And often I even suggest do the week on amazing first impressions and then come back to it and do it again. It's the how to improve yourself is not 80% watching videos, 20% putting into life. It's 10% trying to figure out areas that you can improve, 90% turning those into habits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that making sense?
Yeah, 100%.
And so I think you're dead on that if you binge watch every Charisma on Command video and every Alpha M video and every whatever else, that you will feel overwhelmed because you're consuming too much, such that it's actually impossible to implement it all at once because you can't focus that much. Right? So instead, like, just for Charisma University, you'd have a day where all you focused on was touching people in a way that made you feel connected.
Sure.
You wouldn't have to worry about your eye contact or what you said. You just have your normal conversations with no pressure to make them better, but with the one focus on the certain elements of touching in a certain way. And you, if you're not in a program because you're 19 and maybe you don't have the money to invest, I would suggest set that up for yourself. So instead of watching 100 videos, pick the one thing. Is fitness your thing? Is charisma your thing? Is money your thing? And then within that, go, okay, charisma is going to be my thing. All I'm going to worry about is making my friends laugh more because I want to be funny and I want to make people smile. And I'm going to watch 1 or 2 videos about how to be funnier, and then I'm going to stop. And I'm going to just focus on implementing some of the stuff that I learned.
Yeah. And even then, I mean, if you think the gym is a great thing, because if you can overtrain in the gym and you can kill your gains, like, you need rest, not only in a given day. So when you're learning charisma, what I tell people is pick a time of day that starts and stops, and you are consciously thinking, okay, I'm going to do this thing in this period. But once you get to the end of that, stop. And if you find yourself going, oh, I need to do this, go, I'm done for the day. I lifted. I did it.
If you want to, if you find yourself in a conversation, you're focusing on being funny and you want to tell another joke.
Sure.
But there's
tell the jokes.
There's no pressure. There's no self-flagellation if you don't. There's this one thing, we're extreme. We like to put money on the line where it's like, I'm going to pay someone $100 or I'm going to burn $100 if I don't do this thing. And then once that's done, everything else is just bonus.
Sure. And what I hear in your question that I assume is, so you've got the pain of this breakup, and there's 2 reasons that you're watching the videos. One is to get better, but the second is to distract yourself. And if you want to watch our videos to distract yourself, by all means, go ahead. But don't feel that you need to implement everything that you're doing. And similarly, don't feel that playing basketball with friends is a worse use of your time, because you can only learn and integrate so much in a time period.
Yeah,
once you've done that, you've hit your cap, and you go, you know what? What I need now is distraction.
Go to The Witcher.
Just as good.
Go to The Witcher. No, it's better. I truly think this. Like, watch a couple videos, find something that resonates with you that you want to work on, and then like separate your time and just admit what you're doing to yourself. Oh, this is distraction time. Cool. I'm going to go to a bar and talk to girls because they temporarily remove the pain of missing my ex. All right, cool. Just be honest about it and then go do it. I actually think it's something that a lot of people deal with. You're not alone. A lot of people try to binge improve stuff, get overwhelmed, and then just give up completely. So you're right in line with that, and that's not how we're meant to learn things, especially things that are meant to be habitual.
One thing that I will say is that at 19, you're a college student. I do think that you can have a handful of buckets in your life at this time. And so what I see that has been really excellent for 19-year-old guys is fitness being a part of it, meaning like you're going to the gym, you feel cool, you feel more handsome. So that's something you do for 45 minutes a day, and that's great. In addition to that, you can have one social goal a day, right? Like, you know, at this point on my college thing, I'm going to go in, I'm going to introduce myself to these people with a handshake. That's done for the day.
If you want to meet people in a closed circle, by the way, like college, hey, I don't think I've met you yet. I'm Ben. Single best way I've ever found to start a conversation at a college party or college bar.
And then you've got what I would say is a grab bag. So you've obviously, you got your studies, but let's say that you join the Latin dancing club and they meet twice a week. You go, you schedule in your calendar. I'm going to, in the end of 6 months, I will know a bit of salsa dancing because I'm going to these classes, right? You show up there. And then of course, in there, probably is a large portion of time, you have your academics and all of the things that you're forced to do for university, which includes going to class as well as studying and doing your work. That should be, along with eating and socializing, which will happen naturally, a pretty full day and an excellent amount of self-improvement at your age.
Dude, I've gone harder at learning charisma than I think anyone. You could only tie me, right? But even at my most obsessed, in a given day, I would only think about one or two things. And so I'd wake up and I'd be like, today is going to be how to start a conversation day. And if I start 10 conversations and they all go terribly, but I start them all, I get an A+.
Well, you were doing 10 and I wouldn't even recommend
No, I'm saying I was crazy. I was obsessed with learning charisma. And even then, what I would do is I'd go really hard at 1 to 2 things. I wouldn't try to be like, okay, because I'm going to dedicate 5 hours to this, I'm going to do 50 different things. I was just like, I'm going to nail starting a conversation with strangers. And then tomorrow, maybe if I manage to nail that, because I just obsessed with it for 5 hours and I go get 100 reps, I'll worry about how to make the next 2 minutes of the conversation good. But I'm saying that even if charisma is your number one thing, you still focus on one thing. You just spend more time on it. And then, by the way, even if you spend 5 hours on it, you still have 11 hours with which you should go to the gym, see friends, focus on your studies. So yeah, definitely, I think it's okay to focus on multiple different areas to self-improve. But within our specific one of charisma, you really, even when you're going hard at it, your best bet is just to perfect one thing and then move on to the next thing.
Cool. Good stuff. Is that it?
Yep.
Dope. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
No podcast releasing on Friday, but we'll be releasing some clips on our YouTube channel throughout the week. And then next full episode will be next Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific.
Cool. Later, people.